Back to the 2024 APP Punta Gorda Open. We are taking a live look at many of the courts we have here at Pickleplex. All of them getting utilized because the rain has derailed our schedule. So we're trying to get back on track here in Punta Gorda, which means we are getting you set for the qualifiers. Taking a live look at Brandon Lane and his partner, Judit Castillo, playing in mixed doubles, trying to punch their ticket to the main draw later on in this tournament. They are taking on Matthew Mead and Shannon Pretorius. So we know Judit has already punched her ticket to Championship Sunday in women's singles. But I want you to talk with me a little bit. Brandon Lane, also someone we've seen on the APP Tour in singles. Walk me through, Dom, the difference in how you have to adjust your game from singles to doubles and why it's far from a guarantee that you will be innately good at both.
Well, it's the mindset, right? And two, so many of the tennis players that come over, they find their legs on the single side of things because it's very similar to tennis. Now, doubles, it takes a little more strategy. It takes a little more time for them to catch on the little nuances. For Judit, it was the same thing. It was a little bit of a learning curve for her. She came out, played very well in singles right away, and it took her some time to develop the dink, the slow game. And Chad, you and I saw her at the beginning, and it was like, oh my goodness. Like, you're watching her try and dink, and she's swinging through dink. She's being short. She's popping things up. She just wasn't making that adjustment early, but we both looked at her and we're like, it's just little things that she needs to tweak, and she has done that, and now has become a very good doubles player.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of it, and predominantly the biggest transition into doubles pickleball from tennis is the footwork and the understanding that you are now majority of the time hitting balls with an open stance, with a swing that does not go back behind your body. It's all extension. It's all, acceleration and push through out in front. Even the volley up at the kitchen line, you're coming from tennis and you're used to that volley on the run, or a stab volley where you're stepping forward and the body turns. Now your volley is everything is out in front. It takes time to break down what has been ingrained into you for years before.
Yeah, exactly.
And on the other side of the net, you have Matthew Mead and Shannon Pretorius. If you've been watching the APP Tour, these are two players that you may not be as familiar with. So, Dom, why don't you walk us through with Mead and Pretorius what you like about their game?
Well, again, haven't seen much of Pretorius, but Matt Mead I've seen can play both, the fast pace, can play the dink game. He's got great hands. But I look for him to speed up a little more often than he will play the slow game. And he does it from basically the same position. It's a nice, short, compact swing for him. So don't go to sleep on these two. I know Judit Castillo and Brandon Lane are coming out here as would be, quote-unquote, the favorites, I think, in this match. But again, in a game to 11, just like we talked about with the singles and rally scoring, throw seeds out, put you on a roll really quick. In a game, one game to 11, anything can happen.
Going to be a lot of fun to watch unfold here in front of us on Championship Court. The sun is setting behind us. The lights are kicking in. So we're playing under the lights, boys. Why not start 2024 off that way? Going to be a lot of fun. You both are from around this area in Florida, and you tell me this is pretty typical.
Well, you can't beat the sunsets. The tradition here, especially on the west coast of Florida, is to go down to the beach at sunset and applaud the sun as it goes down.
I love that.
Yes.
So that's one thing for sure. Here on the west coast of Florida, you get fantastic sunsets.
Technically, we're both on the west coast.
That's true.
Very true.
I also like to do that. Sunsets are some of my favorite over the ocean. Grew up with them, with the sun setting over the Pacific, and pretty fun to be back here in Florida with beautiful surroundings to match the fantastic pickleball play that we are going to have on the court. Championship Court is almost ready to get underway. Judit Castillo and Brandon Lane on the left side of your screen. Matthew Mead and Shannon Pretorius on the right.
I have Shannon Pretorius, Matthew Mead, serving to Judit Castillo and Brandon Lane on my right. Time in, 0-0-2.
Pretorius going to get us started here with the serve.
Side out.
Pretorius catching that one while the feet was still moving. It's a little bit jammed up, doesn't quite get extended.
That's just right there. A little bit, that's the part of the game from Judit Castillo that still is, it's in the works, those little roll
0-0-2.
drops. Leaves that one high. That's a good spot there from Pretorius.
I mean, that's two really good backhands. Yeah. One attack down to the feet of Lane, a
0-0-1.
little roll there back behind Lane.
Lane getting big with the overhead there. Pretorius caught a little bit on her heels. Can't get the ball back over the net. Another look.
0-0-2.
Close to a push-off there from Lane.
There's that drive I talked about from Matt Mead. Don't go to sleep on it. And again, it's short, compact. Stays nice and sweet with it.
1-0-2.
Oh, the off-pace little backhand roll. Pretorius gets out of the way of it, thinking it's going to go deep.
0-1-1.
That's a good ball there from Lane. Oh, and that's even better from that Mead.
Those drops from Castillo just sitting a little too high, and Mead smartly playing it off the bounce, knowing it's going to come up to him, making it attack that.
Around the post from Lane. Well defended from Pretorius. Kissing the sideline.
And
that was almost a double round the post
it was,
right
but
there.
Castillo pinched just a little too hard right there.
1-0-1.
And she was a step behind there. She would have had another ATP on the other side.
Great defense by Pretorius, and that time Mead getting big. Backhand flick. Off the paddle of Castillo.
Yeah, Castillo lets that ball get to the feet. Tough to keep it down. Mead changes direction nicely. Doesn't overhit the backhand.
Waiting to try and get the ball back here on championship court. May have to go to a new. Oh,
no, the
there
ball's,
it is. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ball's back. I think the referee was talking to our DJ about something. As far as
DJ Mez doing over there.
Time in. 2-0-1.
2-0-1, the score for Mead serve. Ooh, big serve, long return from Lane.
Those are the mistakes in the game to 11, Chad, you and I talk about cannot have right now.
That time, nice little Ernie from Brandon Lane. Backhand. Gets to go middle of the court.
Well, and that's the danger of going down the line there. Pretorius doesn't get that ball to bounce. Just an easy move from Lane.
Oh.
Side out.
He got real big on that
He
one.
might have had his tongue out there,
yeah.
licking his lips with that ball that sat up with how big the backswing was.
0-3-1, the score for Castillo's serve.
Oh, change of pace from Castillo. Looked like she was going to drive it, and I think Mead was expecting a drive. Just a little forehand roll drop.
1-3-1.
I think Lane needs to attack that first backhand. That was an elevated ball at his chest. He just reset it down. Missed opportunity right there.
Oh, that time Mead going behind.
Again.
Yeah. Well, he
broke her ankles.
He holds that ball on his paddle as long as he can. Watch her get a good view of it right here.
Sets up.
Yeah. Wow.
Closes the body off completely like he's going to accelerate and go at Lane.
Wow, Matt Mead playing super well right now
Point.
and loose. And that's the issue right now for Lane and Castillo, is that he's playing loose
4,
and free.
1, 1.
Gotten them a 3-point lead here in our game to 11.
Thought
Second
about
serve.
speeding it up, changed his mind. By the time he had changed his mind to go soft, that
4-1-2.
ball had gotten too deep on him.
Lane that
Side out.
time looked like he pulled his paddle back. Pretorius trying to, or excuse me, Mead pulled his paddle back. Pretorius trying to cover,
1,
but
4,
couldn't
1.
quite do it, so it's a side out.
Point.
Yeah, you're exactly right, AJ, and it was Mead who threw Pretorius off just enough.
2, 4, 1.
2-4-1, the score for Lane serve.
Point.
That time some attack there from Castillo.
No, and that's a good drive there from Lane. Goes right into the body of Pretorius, and that's
3, 4,
one of the
1.
dangers with that two-hand backhand. If you don't clear the body and you allow that ball to get in, not a whole lot you can do with it.
That
Point.
time, Castillo pushing the ball down the sideline underneath the paddle of Matt Mead.
Flip of the
Timeout
script
4
here
for 1.
quickly,
1 minute.
and all of a sudden you're seeing Castillo and Lane play pace, right? All of a sudden they've gotten a couple balls up. They've started to play with a little more pace, a little more bounce in their step, and that's gotten this one all knotted up now here at 4.
So a timeout called on the court by Mead and Pretorius. As like you mentioned, Dom, they had a 4-1 lead when they gave the ball back to Castillo and Lane, and now find themselves all tied at 4 apiece. Want to try and break this rhythm that Castillo and Lane have gotten into. How have they done that, Chad?
Well, I like the set pieces that they're doing right now, especially that last couple of balls from Castillo. She got the ball elevated. She attacked middle into the left hip of
15
Pretorius,
seconds.
forced me to take a
Servers,
step to the middle to
2
look for that
remaining.
second attack,
Receivers,
and went back behind it. They're
time
not
remaining.
hitting two balls into the same position right now. They're moving the ball around. They're keeping Pretorius and Mead a little bit more off balance.
Time
Where
in.
when they were down
4-4-1.
4-1, it was Mead and Pretorius that were able to, move that ball around. Now Lane and Castillo are taking advantage and setting it up first.
Oh, nice job. And you talk
Second
about
serve.
not doubling up, going the same spot, but it was a good job right there by Pretorius to do that, because Lane had covered
4-4,
backhand and
2.
slid middle, and she doubles up in that right spot.
The ATP from
Side out.
Castillo just a little bit wide. So it'll be a side out of the timeout. Well used,
4-4-1.
well utilized by Mead and Pretorius. Get the ball back on their side of the court with no more points from Castillo
Second
and
serve.
Lane, but on to their second serve after the two-handed backhand left a little short.
4-4-2.
4-4-2.
He just caught running through it instead of just planting his feet and jumping or bouncing that ball right back over. Oh,
Some
Side out.
luck off the net there from Brandon Lane.
Take it and run with it. Yeah, if I was to pick a
4-4-1.
weaker side of Matt Mead, it would definitely be the backhand side, especially a ball that's behind him. And as I say that, he just
just-
bumps one down the line. However, that ball did not bounce.
correct. He took that out of the air with a nice little two-handed backhand counter here.
4-4-2.
And again,
Point.
Lane utilizing the net as well as he possibly can. Getting a little help off that backhand.
Well, Lane probably playing an out
Yeah, I
ball,
was
too.
gonna
The
say, I
ball
think
is
it was
probably
out
going to end up in the
regardless.
first row.
5-4-2.
That ball
Point.
pushed way wide there
Timeout.
by
Change
Mead.
ends. 6-4-2.
And
1
so at the
minute.
end change, it's a 6-4 lead here for Castillo and Lane. Pretorius and Mead doing a good job to work themselves back into excuse me, it was Castillo and Lane who were trailing 4-1 early on in this match, but now they have built themselves up a 2-point lead. If you're Pretorius and Mead, what do you want to do out of this end change to try and get the momentum back on your side?
Well, I was just watching Castillo in that last point, and I'd noticed it earlier on, and Dom, it's something that we'd talked about before as far as tennis players coming over to doubles pickleball. Castillo is so used to recovering back to the middle in tennis or in singles that every time she hits a ball, she recovers, she takes that step back to the middle. Mead had a couple of well-executed shots with those rolls back behind Castillo. I'd look to do that, double up into that same spot a couple more times and catch Castillo while she's trying to recover back to that middle, because in reality she doesn't need to, especially in mixed doubles when she's not pushing that ball really out wide.
So out of the end change, Castillo and Lane extending their lead. 7-4 here in our game 2-11. 7-4-2, the score for Lane serve. Big reach there from Lane, getting big in the middle, forehand, backhand, down the middle for the winner.
Yeah, great coverage there from Lane, and he goes, it's on a good read off of a good drop from Castillo. So he reads Castillo's drop perfectly, pinches middle, and like you said, AJ, it's forehand to backhand, and it's a winner.
Point.
The momentum all the way with Lane and Castillo right now.
And that's a good drop there from Lane, but it's also Mead trying to do a little bit too much with that forehand, really roll it out wide, pull Castillo off the court. They don't need to do as much.
What's it you're trying to get 4 points back there on one shot, right? And you're not going to do it. And again, every once in a while we talk about, every once in a while, your opponent's going to hit a good shot. And that right there, that was a good shot, and it was a good drop right here. And Mead's trying to do something with the ball he shouldn't. Let it bounce and get in the point. Let the point.
Either that or that ball, he's not going to be able to attack it. Let Pretorius take that bounce, that ball, let it bounce. Then she can roll it out wider.
Yeah.
Either way, it's Castillo and Lane here with the 9-4 lead, and Mead and Pretorius can't get them all back in one fell swoop, but they do need to start making some moves here to try and disrupt the rhythm that Castillo and Lane have found themselves in.
9-4-2.
9-4-2, the score for Brandon Lane's serve.
We got away with one.
Did not see it.
And Mead even knows it. He's so mad at himself that he pulled the trigger right there. He got so lucky that Castillo missed it down the line.
4-9-1, Pretorius with the serve. Good recovery there from Lane. And
second serve.
Great job, not just getting a paddle up, but getting it down to the feet of Pretorius.
Yeah, I mean, that ball is ridiculously easy to pop up just by getting a paddle on it. Oh, just out.
Off the paddle, looked like it was going to drop, but just kept carrying.
Yeah, a good ball there from Castillo, sneaking it down behind Mead, down the backhand side.
Good spot there from Pretorius.
Second serve.
Pulling Castillo really wide to that forehand.
9-4-2.
9-4-2, the score for Castillo serve.
Thought about four different things to do, did Matt Mead right there. Ends up going into the net with that two-handed backhand. But again, it was a good setup by Pretorius. Once they get to a 50-50 point, they have an advantage, I think, do Mead and Pretorius. But just need to execute.
And instead, it's match point opportunity, and they get it done.
Match,
Brandon Lane and Judit Castillo moving on in our qualifiers here at the 2024 APP Punta Gorda. Let's take a look at how they got it done.
Well, 10 straight to finish this one for Lane and Castillo. Slow start, but they cleaned it up, really took control of the points. But I think the biggest part is Lane especially didn't try to do too much, didn't overpower, just consistent balls, used his height advantage.
So, Dom, walk us through here because we're in the qualifier. What is next for these two?
So they still have 2 more wins, right? You got to get 2 more wins to get into that main draw. So 2 more games to 11 for these two. They are moving on. They will face off against Eduardo Irizarry and Alexa Scholl coming up in the second round to try and get 1 more win on their way to the main draw.
So we will have more live action mixed doubles from Punta Gorda when we return.